January 14th, 26. Can I get a roll call?
Board Member McKnight,
Present.
Board Member McKinney,
Present.
Board Member Carlson. Here. Board Member Johnson,
Present.
Secretary Lee, here. President Sterling,
Here.
Vice President Thompson.
Here.
And Public Recording Secretary.
Terrell Yarmo, Superintendent.
Shelley Wagner, Human Resources.
Michelle Erb, Curriculum and Instruction.
Jason Bloom, Communications and Community Relations. Josh Ram, Business and Operations.
Thank you. Sorry, my computer's loading slow. Dr. Yarbo, could you lead us off? Can I get everybody to stand?
I don't know, I just got here late myself.
I pledge allegiance
You can keep going.
All right. The mission of the Harlem Consolidated School District as a vital part of the community is to help diverse learners realize their unlimited potential by providing an educational program dedicated to academic excellence and the development of strong character in a safe and respectful learning environment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can I get consensus to approve the introductory meeting minutes, December 10th, 2025?
Yes.
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 Consensus, we have consensus. And with that, I'll turn it over to comments for the community. At this moment, we have two. Comments should be respectful and demonstrate consideration for others. Comments regarding specific individuals are inappropriate. Address the board only at the appropriate time as indicated on the agenda and recognized by the board president. There are to be no interruptions during a public comment being made to the board. If there's a disruption, the individual may be ejected from the public meeting at the discretion of the board president or superintendent. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes to present his or her comment. Comments concerning the same subject matter will be narrowed to one spokesperson first submitted by comment by the board president to address the board on the subject. Please be aware that the Board of Education members will not respond to your comments or questions during the meeting. If necessary, the superintendent or appropriate designee will contact you after the meeting to follow up on the concern or question you have brought forward. And with that, I turn it over to Beth Weinmiller.
But I did want to say that reducing pre-K kids is going to have an adverse effect on starting kindergarten. Obviously, students who have a great need of support will get in first, but how many are going to slip through the cracks because of the 75% cut? Ending ALP classes will probably increase the enrollment gap because you're going to have parents who are either going to homeschool, move, or seek private education to encourage their bright kids. At the last town hall, there was a slide showing the budget deficit being $3 million, but we can afford lockers for high school phones. We can cut early education because funds aren't there, but purchasing these lockers is a worthy investment. And then if we go to grade blocks, have you thought about how long these kids are going to be on the buses? If you've got somebody all the way up in Roscoe, Rockton area, coming all the way down to Loves Park, that's a long time. Have you guys sat on a bus for that long at that age? There's a lot of factors and such, and I know you guys are trying to do your best, but is it really the best if we've got kids suffering?
She's right. You can't give too many comments when you don't know what you guys are thinking. And the problem with the process, the 29 pages it gave us, there were so many differences in what you said compared to what the real thing is, just like the ELP. If I did the spreadsheet, and I know I gave all of you a copy of it, but it gave you what our allocations were, what the salaries were, and if you do the numbers right, it said you have a $1.4 million surplus, and that didn't include the $2 million she said that you got for COVID. And the other thing is never in this proposal have you even considered getting rid of any of the higher ups, the principals. You have 6 principals. I went to school here when we had 2,000 kids at the junior high level. We were all in high school and we had 2 principals. We don't need 6 principals and 6 secretaries, and the kids, this school is for the kids, not all that administration. There's a way you can cut that back and not have to do what you're trying to do. And changing the kids, you are going to get people. I mean, I have grandchildren in this school, and 2 of their, each of them have a parent that's a teacher that's not going to like the way you're doing it. They know how it works, and they're in the different school districts. You homeschool your kids, or you're going to, they'll pay the extra money to have the convenience of being at one school for all grade school. And Olson is where my grandkids have gone, all of them. And I understand, I know there's a lot of people that like it, but the way you have that drill for shooters is unbelievable. So that's why I wouldn't mind having, I think you only need to get rid of Olson, and you can split those kids between McChesney and Ralston, because now you have all these extra classrooms, and leave it like kindergarten, or first grade through 5th grade, and leave the, if you think that kindergarten teachers, and both my daughter-in-law and daughter are kindergarten teachers, and it's a struggle when you get kids in there that don't know their ABCs, that don't know anything. It holds back the whole class, and now you're getting rid of trying to train those little kids who already have some problems to be able to walk into kindergarten and know what they're doing. It's not fair. We've got the money, according to the printout information we got from you guys, that you should be able to keep that, and that's a detriment to all of Harlem, because those kids are going to be behind the whole time. I've seen it when I went to school. I've seen it when my kids have gone to school. My son was, and both his kids will probably be in the advanced learning, and they need that because he got set in the corner because he was disrupting class, helping kids because he was so bored. So you guys need to start from the top down and cut things, not just do harm to the kids.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to bring it over to the education part of the committee. And with that, I'll turn it over to Diane McKinney.
This one right here, I thought I touched.
There, you're on, you're on.
Okay, great. Okay, the Education Committee, bringing it to a whole, is Dr. Michelle Erb, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. And I'm Diane McKinney, and I'm here. Diana Johnson. Dr. Michelle Erb.
Here.
Dr. Terrell Yarbrough. Pam Cook.
Here.
Becky Logan. Jake Hubert. Shannon Rice. Ana Luisa Dominguez, and our union person, Elena Shelling Tufty. Okay, and do I have the consensus to approve the meeting minutes from November 12th, 2025?
Yes.
Yes? Yes.
Okay. And if there's any public comments?
Not at this time.
At this time, okay. And then I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Yarbrough.
All right. Thank you, Board Member McKinney. Before we start with the presentation, and I'll try to speak into this microphone so you guys hear me, I really want to make a statement here with this whole process and for it to go out to the community for those who are both in attendance and those that are online. And so I wrote this so I don't get off track here. But I would like to thank our community for engaging with us throughout this challenging process. This is a challenging process. Whether we're talking about school closures or EC programming or anything that we've talked about right now, this is hard. And I've said this before, and it's hard. This is not easy. If it was easy, we just kick the can and just not do anything. But we can't do that. We just can't. And so with that being said, I want to thank you all, for your participation and your emails. I mean, there's been a number of emails sent to both the board, myself, members that are sitting around this table. But we thank you for that. The phone calls, whether they're positive, whether they're for the things that we're talking about, whether they're negative, we thank you guys for that because that helps us with our recommendation. When we paused, when we were going through everything and we paused it because we heard from our community, because we heard that, okay, we have issues, we have challenges, we have enrollment challenges that we talked about, we had financial challenges that we talked about and we wanted to address. But the proposals that we came forth with, not all our community, liked those. And so we said, you know what, okay, let's pause, let's look at it again, and let's try to tweak it in a way where we're trying to address the things that were coming up in both the public hearings and in the comments and from our community that we were getting. Specifically, when we were talking about transitions and wanting to lower the number of transitions, also too with that feel for neighborhood, and we were hearing that. And so when you hear the presentation, this evening, that's what we're trying to address. That's what we're trying to talk through, and hopefully we can get, to that piece. I also want to thank our staff and our building administrators and board members as well, because you were present throughout all of this. You're getting those negative comments. You're getting hit on Facebook. You're taking all of those things, and I want to thank you for that because you are the ones that are engaging with our students and our families and providing that instruction, continuing to answer questions, and continuing to lead during a time of uncertainty. I was just on a call this afternoon with other area superintendents and learning that they're going through the same things that we're going through. Urbana last year closed 2 schools and went through that, and it was hard. But at the same time, it was necessary, and we had to do that, and they had to do that. And so now we're starting that process here. But you guys are the ones that are talking with families and meeting with kids and continuing the education of our kids through all this uncertainty. So that's why I really feel it's important that we come to a consensus tonight with that piece because we need to move forward regardless of which direction that we're going to go. And so then too, finally, I want to acknowledge our district level, admin, both who are at this table and who are not. I mean, the time and effort that you put into putting together these plans and trying to make sure that they do benefit our kids and that they do benefit our staff and that in our buildings and looking at both our future success, in our present success. And I really appreciate that, particularly Dr. Erb, Rebecca Logan, Heidi Lang, and Shannon Rice. You guys spent hours on trying to put these plans together. And thank you, Board President, Mr. Sterling, for allowing us to not have to come right after break to do this and giving us time to really think about what our community was saying and put some plans together that I feel that can help us, as well. And in particularly, Dr. Erb, we care about EC. The narrative that's out there right now of us not caring about EC, I don't know how to say it any other way but to say that it's just not true. I mean, you sent over 260 emails to legislators offering up anything and everything that they can do to help us with the EC funding problem. And my hope is that, there's some success with those, there's some impact with that, but those calls happened, and we had some meetings, and we talked through it. And unfortunately, these type of issues are going around, statewide, but that didn't stop you from making those phone calls, and I appreciate that. So thank you for doing that. And so as we go through this, because our faith is never going to waver, for our kids, for our staff, and for our community, and we're going to keep forward, regardless of what's being said out there, regardless about all the conversations about me, it is what it is, because at the end of the day, I feel like this is the right thing to do, and this is what we're going to do. So with that being said, we're going to present these modified options to our board. Dr. Bloom and I are going to tag team a little bit with that, and it's going to go around to specific individuals. I'm going to speak as loudly as I can, and we'll go through it. But let's present that to the board at this time. All right, so let me get to it. All right. So the description of options that you see on the screen above you and that board members that you either see, at your table, has come from the comments from the community, has come from, whether it's emails, whether it's phone calls, whether it's, in-person meetings. This has shaped us tweaking the plans that we originally proposed before the holiday break. And so currently, Bluetooth. So currently, students attend kindergarten at Parker Center and then transition to their neighborhood school for grades 1 through 5, or 1 through 3, and 4 and 5, Marquette McChesney. Now, what we heard from the community was that neighborhood feel and wanting to keep that, right? And so our first option, that we tweaked is a modified version of scenario 1 that we presented, last year, that closes Olsen Park instead of Marquette. Adjustments to programming and school zone boundaries. Now, backing up a little bit, what this option is it's K and 1 through 5 at neighborhood schools, and then we'll elaborate on that more as we continue with the presentation. The second option is K through 5 neighborhood schools. This is a modified version of scenario 2 that closes Olsen Park instead of Marquette, adjustments to programming and school zone boundaries. And then the next two options are still kind of what we were alluding to when we talked about bands, but we listened to both the community saying that they wanted less, you guys wanted less transitions, and that you didn't like, the east-west, model that we presented. And so we tweaked this to be north and south, which you're going to see as we talk about it a little bit, further. That helps too when we talk about the transportation piece as well. I do have to say though, with this piece, that I still believe in the East and West, but that's not up for discussion anymore. And the reason why I believe in the East and West, because when we talk about our resources and we talk about dividing them equitably, that East-West to me was the way to go. But again, we're going to listen to our community, and we split it up into north-south instead of east and west. But I still believe that that's the route that we should have went. I had to say that. And then the next one would be, so I'll just read it. K1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a geographic regions modified version of scenario 7 that splits schools north and south with adjustments to programming and school zone boundaries. And then the last one is our sister schools, which is less transitions than what we originally presented, which is K2 and 3-5, and our schools are split into sister schools. So this is a new version of the grade bands, and that reduces, again, that one transition to maintain smaller school zone boundaries. Dr. Bloom?
Excuse me, as Dr. Yarbrough mentioned, we heard obviously loud and clear, and we appreciate the support for neighborhood schools. I think one of the things that I took away from the experience is that obviously our staff and our families value our schools, and it would obviously be a concern if people were not standing up and fighting for their schools to stay open. And so we heard that loud and clear. And so, as Dr. Yarbrough mentioned, we've offered, options that maintain kind of that familiar identity of what our schools look like currently, but we also continue to offer the options of the grade bands. And so when we look at these options, and especially as we're addressing a budget deficit, the band options really are the most efficient. And you'll see that down the line here when we talk a little bit about some of the financial savings and the efficiency that happens within these. And so really keeping these options on the table, because we feel like one of our responsibilities is to be as fiscally responsible as possible. And so we wanted to ensure that we still have these options available for our board to work through. But we also, the K2, 3, 5 sister school option was really our approach to try to blend the feedback we were receiving about our neighborhood schools and the transitions, and trying to blend that with the efficiency of the grade band model. And so You'll see that again as we look through some of the savings and stuff that occur within this. But you also see that that starts to narrow your geographic boundaries or your school zones a little bit more, and so you don't have these large kind of school boundaries like you will in a north-south in the sister school option. And so this was our attempt to try to kind of blend that more neighborhood feel with the band option.
All right, so here's the slide where it shows how things are divided up. So this is our K 1 through 5 neighborhood schools. So in Parker Center, you would have EC and K. The special programs would be early childhood, OLA, STP, life skills, learning lab, our PI, and ESL. Loves Park would be 1 through 5, with life skills and ESL as the special programs. McChesney would be 1 through 5, with OLA, Fine Arts, and ESL as special programs. Marquette would be 1 through 5, with our Advanced Learner Program and ESL. Ralston would be 1 through 5, which will not include any special programming. We had to do that, for transportation purposes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Rock Cut will be 1 through 5 with our STP program as well, and then Windsor will be 1 through 5, and we'll have Learning Lab as a special program.
Yeah, one of the challenges that came across as we go through all of these, and you heard us say this before if you've been a part of these meetings, our specialized programs really are what drive our space utilization and how we really look at the spaces that we have available and how we can maximize the efficiency within those spaces. And so a lot of times people will ask, well, why are we moving certain programs? And it's really about specialized program space. For example, you look at Rock Cut. Rock Cut is a larger building than Windsor, which is what currently holds our STP program. Currently, we have 4 classrooms of STP. Next year, we're going to have 6. And so whether we do something or not, there's already some strong pressure on the ability for Windsor to handle the capacity and the growth of the structured teaching program. And so really, when we look at these programs and the way that we split them up, it's really about space. Because an STP program, while it uses, and next year we'll be using 6 classrooms, those are classrooms where you have maybe 10-ish kids in there. They're not classroom spaces that can be fully maximized. And so a lot of that movement is really about making sure that we can be efficient with the use of space. We also recognize that our identities around our schools really are shaped, with these programs. Windsor obviously has a lot of pride for their STP program, just like life skills, just like any of our other specialized programs that we have. Our schools really wrap their identity around that. And so we know that there will be transitions that will take place. Those staff will transition, and that same kind of level of support will transition. But as you'll see through all of these, we've seen immense growth within our OLA program, our STP, all of these specialized programs. Because of their success, we're seeing that growth, and it's really putting us in a position where we need to make sure that we're in buildings where we either give them the best chance to be able to continue to grow with the needs that we have, or we have to continue to evaluate how we can offer those programs.
And I want to make sure to emphasize, because that was a fair statement as far as raising the question of why couldn't we just disperse our kids, right? Just close a building or two and just disperse. It's because of the success of our specialized programming and how we need to make sure that our kids can actually fit in the buildings that they're dispersing to. And so obviously our specialized programs are successful, and there's reasons why people move into our district, but it's also too it's the reason why we just couldn't just disperse kids to any school.
So next up, you have a map. So you'll see on the left, and I apologize with the lighting, it's a little bit tough to see. All this stuff will be obviously shared with people on our website. So this presentation, we'll share all this information. You'll have a little bit clearer pictures for the stuff that you see this evening. So on the left, you see our current boundary. Obviously, as a K1 or a K1 through 5 district, thank you. We have Parker Center's district-wide, so that was not reflected up there. On the right, you will see the tentative proposed boundaries of our schools in this option. One thing to note for all of these options is there's going to be tweaks that will need to be made as we go through things over the next few weeks and months. Even just within this past week, we've registered about 20 students, a few of them needing some support in our OLA program, which is already adjusting some of the OLA classroom numbers for next year. And so there will be some modifications, so please note that as much as some people are probably trying to look at where they fall on this thing, that these are tentative and there's some adjustments that may need to be made by moving things here and there a little bit. And that will be the same for all 4 options that we look at. So this option, just to give you a little bit idea of what we anticipate enrollment to look like in these buildings. You'll see current student enrollment versus what the proposed enrollment is. One of the areas to note, and which I think will stand out most, is your McChesney building. But I will say that in all of these scenarios, we are not reaching even 80% full capacity. When we did a demographic or facility utilization study back in 2018, 2019, elementary schools typically aim to operate about 75 to 85% capacity. So in this situation, or in this scenario, and actually all the scenarios we're presenting, the only time that we're close to 80% capacity is in that McChesney number that you see there. So, but you see our current student enrollment versus the proposed enrollment under this plan.
All right, so our next option for the board to consider is our K-5 neighborhood schools. How this is divided up, as you can see, Loves Park will be K-5, with special program being life skills. McChesney, K-5, which would have OLA, fine arts, and ESL. Marquette would be K-5 with ESL. Parker Center would be EC through 5, early childhood, STP, PI, and ESL. Ralston, K-5, and again, those specialized programs. Rock Cut, K through 5, Learning Lab, and ESL. And then Windsor, K-5, with our ALP program. I do want to say, too, when you look at this option, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as well, for Parker Center with EC through 5th grade, there would have to be some type of, modifications and things like that to the building if we would go this route, because Parker Center is not designed currently for, upper grades. And so there would be some things to do if this is something that we would choose, so.
Yep, absolutely.
Possible to disperse the kids from there?
To disperse the kids? What do you mean?
Just at Parker.
The question was, would it be could we just do EC at Parker and then disperse the kids from there? That's something that we would have to look at. Yeah. We don't know that right now. Yeah.
You're saying EC only?
Yeah, EC only.
Okay.
Would be the question.
I mean, Parker's our largest building, and so, we really have to, in any option, look at how we maximize that utilization of that building. But even if we were to go up to 360 students and be able to have that option within EC with the PFA grant, you're still underutilizing that building pretty significantly. And so that's, I think you need to be in a spot where you have more than just EC there.
All right.
So this is just a map, a tentative boundary map, so you get to see the comparison of current boundaries in this model. One thing additionally to note in this, and you'll see this when we get to the end when Josh talks a little bit about the financial savings. In this option, the K-5 option, you really start to see where the efficiencies play out with having more levels or more classes of a grade level in a building, or less classrooms of grade levels across buildings. And so you'll notice one thing just to point out, because we've had feedback where people do believe that K should be with our first grade for that vertical articulation and that transition that takes place. But you'll also see that our current model of offering K district-wide in one building is the most efficient way of running a grade level. And you'll notice that when we see the cost savings comparison between this previous option and then this one that we're currently looking at, there's a pretty significant difference in the cost savings that occurs when you now take and move K through 5. So you have 6 grades across multiple buildings versus having them spread out amongst less buildings, which creates a more efficient option. So we'll talk more about that, but that's just one point to note on this model versus this option versus the one that we just shared. So when we look at proposed student enrollment, you start to see a little more balance there. Again, when we look at the numbers that we had shared back December 9th, I believe, We were looking back at 2007 enrollment as a more recent peak in our enrollment. And again, these numbers are not pushing us near what we were at that time. And again, we're still operating below, in this case, below 75 to 70% of full capacity of our buildings.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
I was just curious, at Parker Center, they all have an asterisk. Is there something that like a legend that leads to, or what's the?
That's the number with EC.
That's the number with EC.
With
Okay.
EC,
I didn't-
correct. And that kind of goes to the point Dr. Bloom was making as far as if we would only have EC at Parker Center, the reason why we have to have more than just EC is because when you look at that number, even if we were at capacity with EC, that would.
Yeah,
that
not
would-
even close.
Not even close.
No. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so here's our geographic region option here, K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is north-south. So Parker Center would be EC in first grade. Special programs would be PI, STP, life skills, and ESL. Rock Cut would be 2, 3, and that would be also STP, life skills, and ESL. Ralston would have 4 through 5th, and in this scenario, Ralston would have special options, Learning Lab and ESL. Windsor would be K1, Learning Lab and ESL. Loves Park, 2 through 3, Learning Lab and ESL. McChesney, 4 and 5th, STP, Life Skills and ESL. And then Marquette would be K through 5, and that would be OLA, Fine Arts, ESL, and ALP until phased out.
Yep, so as Dr. Yarbrough mentioned, this is just a modified version of what we presented at the last year, I suppose, with our Scenario 7 option. And so moving to a north-south, one of the things to note as we look at this map, we are still kind of playing around with the pairings of the buildings to really make it a true north-south. And so you see there's this kind of weird green blip in the middle there. One of the things that we have to do when we look at pairing boundaries and pairing schools is to ensure that schools of similar sizes are either paired together, or in this case, when we looked at a north-south boundary, we wanted to ensure that we had McChesney and Parker in opposite boundaries because they are our two largest buildings. And so we really need to make sure that we offer a large building in the south zone and a large building in the north zone. So there may be some modifications as we work through this one, where we may potentially look at having really Harlem Road be our kind of divider line, where anything south of Harlem Road would be the south boundary, anything north of Harlem Road would be the north boundary. But the concept in itself is that, we heard from people that felt like the distance, as we heard this evening, from the north end of Ralston down to the south end of the district on Loves Park is a pretty far distance. And we know that to be about 4.9 miles between those two schools, but this then creates a little more consolidation of your geographic zone when we look at this grade band. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, really the grade band option and why we continue to explore this, as you'll see later on, is that this is by far the most efficient way of operations for us when we look at resources and how we allocate space and efficiently use our space, and you'll see that in the cost savings as well. So in this model, you see proposed student enrollment. You'll notice in some cases, and I forgot to mention this before, obviously now we're moving into magnet schools, and so in this case, Marquette's your magnet school, and so you'll see the smaller enrollment in that building because of specialized programs being housed at Marquette. One of the things that you also notice, and it's more prevalent in the other options that we looked at, is that not all schools are really balanced across each other. And a lot of that has to do, again, with specialized program and the space that specialized programs use, and then as well as how many kids can be in a classroom in a specialized program. And so you see some of that variation in the first two options that we showed, and then it starts to kind of even itself out a little bit more here. But obviously our larger buildings are going to have the ability and capacity to handle larger enrollment.
All right, so then our final option for board consideration is our sister school option, which is K2 through 3 through 5th grade. So with this option, you have Loves Park will be K through 2 to second grade, with special programs being life skills and ESL. Rock Cut will be 3rd through 5th, with life skills and ESL. Parker Center will be K through second grade, with STP and ESL. McChesney will be 3 through 5, with STP and ESL. Marquette will be K through second, with Learning Lab and ESL. And then Ralston will be 3rd through 5th, with Learning Lab and ESL. And then in this scenario, you got Windsor, which would be our EC and through 5th grade, and you would have OLA, Fine Arts, ESL, PI, Early Childhood, and an option for the ALP to continue or phased out.
So as I mentioned previously, this was an attempt to kind of merge both ideas together, both the traditional look of our schools currently with the band option. This allows us to run more classrooms of a grade level in each building. But one of the things too, as you look at this and you see it's kind of at an angle when we look at our school boundaries, and so you look at the Marquette-Ralston pairing as being the light blue at the top end there, is that really the pairing also has to ensure that there's similar size across those buildings. We can't partner a Ralston with McChesney because Ralston only has so much capacity, and then that makes, if let's say Ralston was K2 in this scenario and McChesney was 3-5, Ralston would only be able to handle a certain capacity of students, and then you'd run them into McChesney, and you'd be underutilizing McChesney because of the differences in the size. So this is why it looks a little bit like this, is because it allows Loves Park and Rock Cut to be together. They both have 25 and 26 classrooms in their buildings. You have your McChesney Parker combo, and then you have Ralston Marquette, again, trying to pair them geographically as well as making sure that the spaces are comparable so that when we run programs in those spaces, they can transition from building to building within the sister school pairing, and it doesn't create inefficiencies through that. So again, lastly here, you'll see the proposed student enrollment for each of these. Again, you're starting to see a little bit more balance across the buildings because you're now taking buildings of similar size, you're partnering them together, and then you've got your geographic zones in which those schools are partnered together on. So next, we're going to move into some of the main things that kind of came out of the feedback that we were receiving. There's a few pieces to touch base on, a few considerations that we had as we were going through this process. And so Dr. Erb's going to hit a few of the areas that were areas of focus as we were designing these different options.
Am I on? Thank you. So we did try to hit as many of the things that people wanted, but there's not going to be one solution as we go through these that you're going to see that we were able to check all of the boxes, just as our current system doesn't check all of the boxes. With our two neighborhood schools, we're going to see some of the same concerns that we've been trying to work through right now. In our buildings with STP and life skills, those buildings are already over 30% of the students having an IEP. That does create an additional workload on teachers because they're pulled out for more IEP meetings, et cetera, when your building is already at over 30%, because there is no way that you can divide the students and have it not be. The other situation with the two neighborhood school options is the fact that ESL, it's not a good use of our funds to offer ESL in all of our buildings because they could be in anything either 1 through 5 or K through 5. So families have to choose between neighborhood schools or being with the kids' friends or going to another facility in order to receive the services. So in both of those neighborhood school options, those are two things that we still have struggles with and can't be able to come up with a solution because of the size of the programs. Also, regardless of what we do, if our programs continue to grow at the rate that they are, we are going to, over the years, continually have to evaluate and see if adjustments need to be made because they are growing at such a rapid rate. When we look at the geographic zones, each of the buildings and the sister schools, each of the buildings would be able to have ESL services. The reason for that is because as you cluster students into classrooms, you're only talking about a couple of grades. So a teacher would be able to support more than one building because those kids would be in fewer classrooms. So they would be able to have ESL services in each building. Also, in both of those scenarios, you'd be able to keep your special ed population under 30% because you have a larger number of students. There would be more students who are receiving general education and compared to the IEPs, so you don't run into the 30% threshold concerns that you do with our current model or the neighborhood models. For our special programming, which we're referring to as OLA, our Advanced Learner Program, and Fine Arts, in our neighborhood school options, we are continuing to offer the Advanced Learner Program. In both of those options, we are also keeping Fine Arts and OLA at McChesney. In the Advanced Learner or in the neighborhood schools, the Advanced Learner Program is at Windsor, and in the K-5 it would, I'm sorry, at Marquette, and in the K-5 it would be at Windsor. When we look at the geographic zones or the sister school options where we have a magnet school, we would bring the OLA and Fine Arts programs to the magnet schools. As far as Fine Arts being at one of the magnet schools, they would have a designated art and music space, but they would also have the ability to use the middle school or the high school's auditorium or stages as far as being able to do some of the rehearsals. Both Dr. Boyce and Mr. Harris said that would definitely be a possibility in both of those situations. In the regional schools, we have recommended to phase out our Advanced Learner Program and offer honors courses, but we also see that as an opportunity in the sister school options. When we went and looked at the middle school honors offerings, sixth grade typically has 3 sections of honors. So if you think of having 3 regions and being able to offer honors classes in all 3 regions. The other thing that we looked at our data over the past few years, last year we had a 42% decline rate for the ALP program, meaning that 42% of the families that were offered the program turned it down. The 2 years prior were 32% both of those years. So we do have several families that are choosing to have their, or the children and their families are choosing to stay with their friends and not necessarily going to a magnet school. So our schools are already providing that level of support. And if we have that many students together at a grade level, we feel that we would have the opportunity to offer an honors in both the sister school option and the geographic option, because then we'd have a larger number of kids getting that rigor going to the middle school, where right now we're talking about approximately 20 kids getting the higher rigor and then going, and they're in classes with probably 85, 90 kids at a higher rigor. So it's just a little more opportunity for our students. As far as intervention support, our intervention support is going to look different across the district. When we talked about the East and West, I told you we would have the same number all of the schools. That's because we were taking our free and reduced population, basically splitting it up evenly, and so we had approximately the same size school and the same percentage of free and reduced. In all of these situations, because we are going north and south, it will not be even. So we are going to see a different level of service depending on the socioeconomic makeup of that area. All of the buildings will receive an interventionist and an MTSS facilitator. They'll all have one social worker, but beyond that, The additional social workers would be dependent on the programs that are in the buildings, and the additional intervention support would be dependent on Title I funding. Early childhood, as Dr. Yarbrough shared earlier, we have met with a couple of senators, but I want to point out, not only I have sent out letters, I've had administrators reach out to me that they've sent out letters, and our union has sent out several letters on our behalf as well, trying to get some changes so that we can try to offer more than these 2 classrooms in each of these options here. So again, in each of these options, we're talking about the 2 general EC classrooms, plus the EC STP and the EC life skills, with the hopes to be able to increase. This, we also have shared that we have done some changes to try to make sure that if for some way we get additional funding, we could get up to capacity in many of these options here. So in the K 1 through 5 neighborhood schools, we do have the ability to expand to current capacity as long as we would use 2 different sites. In the K-5, there was no way that we could get up to current capacity, but it was 5 classrooms that we were able to be able to get up to for the 5 general classrooms if we went with the K-5 option. In the geographic regions, we would be able to get up to current capacity over 2 sites. And then if we do the sister school options, if we chose not to continue with ALP, we also could, but it would be over multiple sites again.
Those 2 sites.
I can look at my chart. I have a chart with all of the different schools that it would be, but we really looked at anywhere that we could see space. And if there was 1 classroom, there would be an issue. We would have, the more buildings that spread across, we have to have that playground for the kids. And Mr. Rand and I have talked about, is it moving a playground? Is it putting a playground in? But we do know that we need a playground with a fence anytime we add them to another site.
What's the capacity at Parker?
In which of the options, I'm sorry?
In any of the options, like for utilization.
In regards to early childhood?
Yeah.
So in the neighborhood, and then the 1 through 5, Parker Center has 7 classrooms. In the K-5, 4 classrooms. In the geographic zones, 4 classrooms. And in the sister schools, 2 classrooms. But we have to remember that when I say 2 classrooms, that's 2 general ed classrooms, and we do have those 2 special ed classrooms as well. We need to make sure that we try to keep those 4 together first and then use additional options. So if Parker Center only has space for 2, you'd want to start out with them definitely at the magnet school, and then so that our students with IEPs have the opportunity to push out and be with their peers in a gen ed setting.
Thank you.
For requirements then, is it predominantly just the playground equipment and then making sure there's a fence for the littles, or is
That would be the biggest one I'd be concerned about. There's some other things that right now, we would love to have bathrooms in our classrooms, but Maple, we've made it work without having it. So there's things that we can work through, but my biggest concern is making sure that our kids are safe and that we have that fence around. That's a priority for me.
Sure, and just looking at potential construction costs and added costs for any of these moves, it's important to know.
Correct.
So, yeah, the requirements versus the nice-to-haves.
Right, and so that's why we talked about looking at cost-wise, which would be most cost-effective, moving a playground or just creating a new one. We know what the costs were for the ones that we recently created, but we also know for the early childhood one, because you don't need it as big as what we had in those elementary buildings. So that is something that we are aware of and have on our list once decisions are made.
Okay, thank you.
Space for specials, that was something that was brought up as well. And currently, all of our specials don't have their own space. Like, that's not something that currently happens. Space is a building administrator decision. So they see how many sections they need, they see their special programs, they see all the needs, and then based off of that, you might have the space one year and the next year you don't have that space. We see that happen all the time. We're committed to making sure that our fine arts has a committed space for art and music. But beyond that, those are administrative decisions to determine what is the best use of their space.
I guess the only call out there is if it's giving the administration to do that, completely understandable, but we still have to look at the map, right? Like that there's a possibility of it, that this is a bigger year, they're gonna have to move to a cart for this year, but then it can come back. Are there any scenarios to where, based on our current enrollment, that they would be on a cart at a building right out of the gate?
No, not in the current recommendations. So, but again, it's also dependent upon programs and space that needs to be utilized for various purposes. Like in some cases, you may have more pull-out that's occurring for special, for special education. Some of our buildings, the challenge is that when we look at these spaces, is that they're not just, for example, Rock Cut 26 classrooms. Like, it's not just 26 classrooms. Like, we have half classrooms and quarter classrooms and office spaces, and so it really depends on the need of the building and what types of services need to be offered, and the number of adults that are in that space. That really is kind of the strategy behind how they set that up. But we really went through and looked at adult spaces. We looked at the number of classroom spaces we need. We looked at the office spaces that are available to ensure that, in most scenarios, like you should be good with art in a classroom. But once you start to go a little bit further and you look at some of those individual needs, then they may have to be creative depending on the circumstances. But yeah, we ensure that there's ample open classroom spaces available. But again, that's to the discretion of, how many special ed teachers do we have? How many kids are receiving pull-out and intervention? What spaces are available for that? So it is really a building decision, and it is a year-to-year decision. But we made sure that there's at least a handful of classrooms that are available in each scenario.
Perfect. As long as there's actual flexibility versus the optics of flexibility, that's what I'm looking for.
So this one is a little bit more of a difficult concept to kind of explain, but I think it also leads into, as we look at our efficiency that we keep talking about, and why we continue to offer a grade band option or the sister school option, as we look at how we utilize the space across the district. And so when you look at our current class sizes, you see ranges of 14 to 26. And so anytime you have a broad range like that, that indicates inefficiency. And while obviously it's great to ensure that you have, smaller classrooms and you want to have that, you also see the inefficiency that occurs as a result of that, because the more that we maximize the classroom spaces that we're utilizing, the more efficient that we are. And so in these different scenarios, you can see a little bit of the variation. But as I point out, the geographic regions and then the K2 3-5 sister schools, you see that has the most narrow range of current class sizes. So this is us placing these students in classes, what it would look like next year, and based on that, our class sizes are going to generally range from 22 to 25. Obviously, that will be fluid as enrollment changes and depending on kids coming, in or out. But you'll see that the efficiency, when you start to look at the numbers, is that when we put more kids in a building and we have a larger geographic zone serving a certain grade level, it allows us to be more efficient. And that's why, as I mentioned before, when we compare, and you'll see that in a second with Josh's numbers, the K1-5 and the K5, even though they seem very similar in structure, you're going to notice quite a bit of a difference in the savings between those two. And that's really because you take one building like K, like Parker Center, that maximizes efficiency because all kids in the district go to that building for K. And so now you have everybody in one location. And so the less locations that we have a grade level, the more efficient we are. Then for transportation, we just hit on this because we know that concern about distance was an issue that came up for people. But we also wanted to reassure, because I know that there were some challenges as we navigated our transition from a 2-tier system to a 3-tier system. For busing purposes, all 4 options allow us the ability to be back on a 2-tier system for elementary schools. And so obviously we will be working through what those schools are, but we'd have primarily elementary schools on the 1st tier and 2nd tier as we would have previously. So we're going to move from a 3-tier to a 2-tier in this all 4 options. And then when you look at the distance, this is really just, again, to point out the distance between schools in these options. Obviously in the K-5 option, you're only in one school, so there's no transitions. Current, we have a maximum distance of 2.8 miles, so a family that has a kindergartner at Parker Center and a student at another school, the max distance between those schools is 2.8 miles, and then you can see the difference in the other options as well. And so geographically, we're not a very large district, and so like I said, the max is 4.9 miles between 2 of our schools. And so we know that there was concern, though, that, as mentioned earlier this evening, that, if you're on the north end of our district and you're traveling all the way to the south end of the district, that is a distance, and especially if you're dropping kids off at multiple locations. So we feel like our options and revamping those a little bit keeps those pretty tight as far as the distance go between the 2 or 3 buildings.
And real quick, we got Mr. West here, our Director of Transportation. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or that pretty much sums it up?
That sums up very well.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, and obviously he was a big part of planning this out and really looking at routing and transportation and specialized programs. And as we move kids throughout the district, that's a big part of that. Obviously, taking 2 buildings offline gives us a few more options there. But obviously, he was a big part of this decision-making process when we looked at placement of specialized programs and how we're busing students for magnet type programs.
Is that a question? I don't know. We had talked about in some of the meetings that a lot of our parents are concerned about busing. And a lot of these parents who are going to be, say, in the geographic or the sister schools, putting students on either multiple buses or one bus, or having to take their kids because they don't want their kids on buses. My question would be, when we're looking at maybe these, the 2 lower ones, geographic and sister, are they all going to be on different buses for their grade levels, or are they all going to be on the same buses and then dropped off at their different geographics or sister schools? Because that may make a difference on whether parents still want to drive or put their kids on the bus.
Yeah, and I don't know if Don, if you can provide some insight to that.
Yeah, I believe they would be, the kids that go to that school would be on that bus.
Thank you.
So, can I interject there then? So in other words, if they're in the 2nd and 3rd grade, then that only on that bus would be 2nd and 3rd graders.
Yeah.
Or
That's what he
4th and 5th graders. So I think that's quite a nice thing. I did have one more question before we get done for Dr. Erb. Could you explain a little bit more about the honors program? I know a lot of people hear us say that we're eliminating the advanced learning, but we are still offering honor classes.
Correct.
And
So-
if you could kind of expand on that for me?
Yeah, so right now, our students, we send invitations to the top 5% at each of our schools and invite them to be part of our advanced learner program. From there, if they say no, we keep going to a certain point, and then once the gap is significant, that's where we have to stop, because then we aren't able to really offer that honors type of level. So that's why we see some fluctuation in our sizes. What we're suggesting here is, instead of asking the families to choose, do you want to leave and go to this different building, where we do find that kids, for 3 reasons, kids and families choose not to. One, they've either also chosen fine arts, and we do have a lot of families where the kids qualify for the advanced learner program, and there are also kids who have auditioned for fine arts. Number 2, we have several kids in the OLA program who qualify for our advanced learner program, and they often choose to stay with OLA. And then the 3rd one is they don't want to leave their friends. And so we're trying to eliminate that, not wanting to leave their friends, by offering an honors class at those 4th and 5th grade levels in both the geographic and the sister schools, so that instead of there being, like I said, sometimes we get down into the teens, but typically it's 20-ish kids who get those services, we can provide those services for closer to 75 across our district. So it's really trying to give more services, plus right now, you have to be high in both math and reading in order to qualify. And some kids really excel in one content versus the other. With an honors type of option, you could be strong in one and kind of at that general level for the other and still be able to get some of those honors classes, where in our current model, if you're strong in one and not in the other, you probably are not receiving an invitation.
I have one more question for you, since we're, sorry. I know that, I think I know the answer to this one, but I think everybody else, what's the translation from our ALP program in elementary to graduation rates, to GPAs, to further, I mean, is there a huge gap from our ALP students and our students that didn't go through ALP with any of that? I mean, what, is there a major difference when it comes to graduation?
Because of the fact that we go to 85, 90 kids who take honors classes once they hit 6th grade, you don't see necessarily any type of large gap. Because those kids, like I said, we have 32 to 42% of our kids who are declining those services. Our elementary schools right now are doing interventions and still pushing the kids. So just because they're not in the program, the kids are still getting pushed. Our teachers are doing a great job of meeting our kids' needs.
And the other side of that coin, so you said the top 5% are invited?
Correct.
So essentially, the people that are, the students that are going into ALP aren't necessarily the top 5% of our grade earners, right? I mean, we're falling to fill those classes, are we going to the top 15%, top 20%?
We keep going down, I mean, it keeps increasing, but like I said, we hit a point where we say, if I go lower than this, we're inviting somebody and they're not going to be prepared. And so what we end up seeing instead often is lower class size. I couldn't tell you the actual percent. I don't want, all of a sudden I'll be quoted on giving a percent that's not accurate. But I will say that it is greater than 5% when we're all said and done. Okay. And again, we also have smaller class sizes because we get to a point where we say, we don't want a kid to be put in this class and struggle because we have this range.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so for the final slide is the net financial savings. And one note I want to make here is net means that we reduce the EC revenue out because of the grant issues that we've talked about. So you can see the dollar amounts here, and Dr. Bloom talked about the efficiencies and how running all 6 grades at every building is the least efficient and how running them twice in the bottom left is the most efficient. A couple things I want to note, there's a star for in the upper right, and so what that's denoting is that we have not factored in big Parker Center changes like toilets and playgrounds that would still need to be addressed in that scenario. And you know, we've talked about the deficit of where we're at. Currently, when I take into account all of the projected revenue increases and decreases and what the salaries and benefits look like next year I'm projecting a $3.8 million and a $28 to $5 million deficit. So it's important that we do the best we can to address that, because my main concern, and we've talked a lot about insurance and that issue, and even last time you asked how that was trending. And so for tonight, I ran the last 3 months. The last 3 months are up $716,000 alone. So not only does that continue to be an issue with how we ended the year last year, but Dr. Wagner gave me an article that said even though 25 was bad, 26 is trending worse. So that is just going to be a pinch point for us to keep an eye on going forward too. So I'm just wanting to ensure that the district can handle whether those revenues drops or that insurance increase the best we can. What kind of questions does anyone have about? I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I want to be able to answer if you guys have any questions.
there questions from the board right now? At least to each other, or to any questions for Mick or Dr. Terrell? At this time, I was going to be asking for consensus. The consensus is to narrow this down from 4 to 2, and the easiest way to do that is getting consensus from our board members on whether they are for the band model, which would be the sister model and the geographic, or if we're going to stay with the neighborhood model. That way, we'll know on Tuesday which way we're going to be going instead of trying to discern between 4.
Can I kind of add some complexities to that? I think we should narrow it down, but we basically have band-type solutions and neighborhood solutions. And I think administration's done a great job of giving us options. And I still think that we should narrow down to one of the bands and one of the neighborhoods to really kind of go against them. Well, you've got, and I hear your point, but I've heard your point, we'll hear your point, but we don't know anyone else's feedback is. So if we go one and we pick the wrong one, we're not even in the same wheelhouse, right? Like, we are distilling it down.
I think it was clear nobody wanted bands. I think bands,
No, that's not
I
right.
think it was pretty clear that nobody wanted bands.
And I want to make sure, right? So there's bands, I get that. But I think there
It
are.
doesn't have to be.
So I'll come out with my thoughts here, because why not? I don't think north-south or east-west bands work, right? Like, I think I'm in agreement with that, right? We were here. I think there's some benefits to at least looking at. I'm not saying this is the way we're going to go, we should vote for it, and that's the problem I have with going down to one of the others on this, with sister schools. My kids have gone through Marquette to McChesney. They've gone through that system. I think there's definitely blind spots that I don't know or anyone else hasn't seen, but we're narrowing it down, saying, do basically what we are and close some schools and make some tweaks, or look to some potential options for this district. Is that the way we need to do it? I don't know. And even, I appreciate everyone that's here, that's just going to be still one subsect. There's still people that couldn't come because it's later. There's people that can't attend the meetings. There's people that are looking at this, screaming at their laptops at home one way or the other. And that's where I'm at with it, right? Like, I think if we need to narrow down to some of these, fine. But going, it's either going to be neighborhood or nothing, I don't know if that's the right way of doing it. And maybe I'm alone.
No, it's one of these 4, so it's either neighborhood or the band model, whatever band model you're going to, because right now, I mean, there are people on this board that have talked about an opposition totally to the other idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to clear it up. If that's not, I'm looking for you guys to help them. Right now, it's paralysis by analysis. There's too many options, too many questions, keeping it simple and just getting it to a place where we can go.
Is there not a reason to go down to 2? Why having the,
It's going to be harder to try to do that. So, I mean, we're going to have to do a consensus to vote between the 2 bands, and then the things we can do it that way. All I want to do is make it easier for the choice.
sure.
Because we go in on Tuesday and say 2 people want 1, 2 people want 4, 2 people want another one, and then we get nowhere. I'm just trying to get consensus.
I mean, if you do 2 votes for each person that's here, you get an idea. If we are all over the map,
Okay.
I think that itself is an answer, right? If we're all over the map, the communities are going to be all over the map.
I'm with
If we
you.
get down to 2 and have an idea, and they're both neighborhood, that gives you your answer right there. If
Okay.
there's some that split the way, like, I think that gets it there. It was still nice to have some feedback, but again, I also have to stress, and I think everyone did a great job in the discussion of these, but timeframes are also going to be of the essence. Like, we're already behind the the 8 ball, as it were, to get these things in place one way or the other. So I understand that.
All right, so I'm open to everything. So like, when we're looking at the K-1 through 5 neighborhood schools, that'll be one, number one. K through 5 neighborhood schools.
You mean K1
K-
through 5?
K1 through 5, sorry, that's number one. K through 5, this is the way they went through in the slides. K through 5 neighborhood schools where K's at each one of the neighborhood schools. That's two. That's two. The K through 1, the 2-year bands, geographic regions, that's 3. And sister schools is 4. Do you guys want a moment to think about this when you come up with your 2 numbers that you would like to see go forward to Tuesday? No, this is part of the process.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
I'm asking for one to be moved to Tuesday's meeting, scenario 1.
just,
The
give me 2,
kindergarten.
just give me 2.
I'm giving you 1.
Don't eat this. Please give me 2 numbers.
I will look at 2. I will look at 1. I like 1. I will look at 2.
All right, so you're down for 1 and 2.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to go by a number. I'm going to just say what it is.
Okay.
Sure.
You don't have to touch it. They turn it on up there.
Okay. I'm going with number 3 for my first choice and number 4 for my second choice.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca?
Did you want me to go next?
Rebecca, I'm just going.
I personally can't put any one of them on as a consensus. I'm disappointed in all 4 of them. I would have to say financially, I would put the geographic regions as one to save finances, but I also believe in the kindergarten and 1 through 5 neighborhood schools, which would be number 1. So,
3 and 1.
yes.
I'm 3 and 4.
It was,
I'll say 3. This is so hard. See, I'm kind of tied on. I'll say 3 and 4.
I will go with my consensus of 1. And 2. Kurt?
1 and 4.
So it looks like 1 and 4 votes.
So 1 and 3.
4.
1 and 4 will go next. No.
3.
No. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 for Plan 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 for Plan 4.
1 didn't go.
No.
3.
Say that one more time?
Yeah, because Rebecca said 1. I thought she said 1.
Yes, I said
3 and
1.
1.
I said 1 and 3.
Me?
3 and 1.
You and her. Three of
Kurt
them-
said one.
three
I
of them
said
tied
1 and
with
4.
Yeah.
One,
So
two.
one should have 4.
So then, this is why
Right.
But this is part what I wanted to see though, right? Like, I get it, it's not neat, this is not optimal.
So 2's out, and it's 1, 3, and 4. Going to 2.
3 is just a modified 7 that clearly didn't hit the mark for a lot of people.
We still got 3 votes.
But, so, no, as we got the consensus, consensus on Tuesday will be a vote between 1, 3, and 4. That was the consensus.
Can we, Dr. Yarbrough, thoughts or opinions with 3 that's here?
Right.
Or any feedback based on kind of, this is informal, we're not locking it in and voting everything that's directly here. This is our opportunity to kind of put stuff out there, get feedback, pull it back and change. We can take consensuses again. It doesn't matter. I just want, now that you're seeing how this is going, and we still want to give you the tools so we don't tell you, good, you knocked out not enough. What is your thoughts?
When we started this process, and when the board, asked us to, we need you to address the efficiency of our buildings, and we need you to come up with a plan that addresses our financial deficit, right? And that's why we went into the band model. I know it's not popular, but that's why we went into that, because when you look at the geographic regions, and even hearing from the community as far as, the whole east-west, we tweaked that to north-south because that's what we were hearing, as well. So when you look at the geographic region, the K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is number 3, that pretty much gets us where we need to be, if that's the one. That gets us where we need to be. Also, too, if a lot of the things that we talked about with the EC, with our reaching out to legislators and trying to up our numbers, that gives us the capacity to up those numbers. And so we were trying to build that into that plan, which is 3. And I know it's still, similar to scenario 7, but that's why we did that. And so for me personally, and anyone from my team or our team can speak on this, that will be our recommendation. But again, whatever you tell us to do, we're going to make it work, but we just need a direction.
Yes.
Because that's where, when we talk about the countless hours that goes into trying to figure all of these scenarios out, and the transportation piece and all of those things, what I don't want is, whether it's tonight or Tuesday, but I prefer tonight we come to a consensus, is that our families have been thinking about this since we started this, our staff, our students, our admin, we have to come to a conclusion so we can move forward. And it's not, everybody's not gonna agree with whatever we come up with. It's not gonna have 100% buy-in, but at the same time, what's best for our district? And I'm just gonna, that may mean something to different people, but what's best for our district, and I said this before, both in the short term and the long term. I believe it's the K1, 2, 3, 4, 5 geographic regions, and that's number 3. So that's just my thoughts.
Also, Kurt, just so you know, not that you don't. Their job is to do all the I's, T's, cross, whatever. We're gonna ask questions, we're gonna do this. That's why when I'm asking about belief or consensus is, where do you want to see? Do you want it neighborhood schools, or do you want these band models? Do you want all the other backfill of where all this is going on? Like, we need to know some of that. We give them direction, but it's their job to do that on a normal basis, and you know that. If we keep asking and keep trying to have the most perfect situation,
There's no
half
perfect
these
situation.
half these kids are going to be graduated by then.
Yeah.
We have to start somewhere. That's why I'm just trying to narrow it down.
And I don't think, and that's why I brought this up, to get some feedback. I don't think sending you with 3 options and knocking one out is the right pace. But I think we had to get an idea of where we all stood, right? Like, this has all been open. There's no closed session to this. I don't know where anyone stood. Now we've got an idea where everyone's kind of standing on a board for these ideas. And we stand at a draw of 3, right? So if we want to discuss where that is, what's going on, because we've got Rebecca that's having input to where the consensus is at, and her thought is, I don't like any of these. Right? Is that the right way to formulate is, I think they're all terrible, I'm going to pick this one. Like, I mean, again, I don't mean
Oh, I
that.
know. I understand.
Like, you're, like, if the consensus was these are all terrible, I think that's value, almost a different one that's there. But going through and saying, hey, if I got to pick one, they're all bad, I'll do this. Is that really where you're wanting to go? I think there needs to be some discussion with it, that's all, right?
We've
And
been
we're-
having these discussions.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
That's
what
where
we
I'm
want.
formulating. I don't think we leave here until we're at least down to either what you're saying, either banned or no banned, or to 2. I don't think that, otherwise it is unfair to administration, and maybe even 2 is unfair to administration.
I'd like to say something if I could. I always like to explain why I vote the way I do. As you know, I was a village trustee for 12 years, so I do like to explain why I vote the way I do. I know this wasn't the popular decision, but when we bring up the numbers back up on the board, you can see that this saves us almost $800,000 in 3 years. We have no idea what is going to happen with the economy the way it is now, with tariffs the way it is now, with the health insurance, like Josh mentioned, the way it is now. This is not a here and now situation. We were elected on this board to look for the future of the Harlem School District 2. We're looking to see what the future is going to hold. And sometimes you have to make the hard decisions, not the easy one. It's going to make you so popular, because I wasn't elected for that. But I was elected to make the hard decisions for this school district, for us to move forward and keep this school district going in a positive manner for the next 5-10 years. And in this scenario with the geographic regions, I had asked to move it to north to south, so it would help a lot of the people in the north area that weren't happy with the east and west. But it does have a lot of benefits. We were talking about the buses. The kids will be on a bus with just 3 and 4th graders, or 4 and 5, 5th and 5th grade, 2nd and 3rd grade, kindergarten and 1st. There won't be the issues with the emails that I received about my kid getting bullied on the buses because of the 5th graders along with the 1st graders and things like that, which I think is a very beneficial reason. Our teachers can benefit from being together in the school with the same age groups in the school, with the 2nd and 3rd graders being together and learning from the other teachers as to what's working for them and not working for them and playing off of each other. I think that's another good thing. The honors program, that's why I asked Dr. Erb about that. They can go ahead and have maybe reading and not math. They can do that in the regional thing and stay in their same school, which seems to be very important to them. There's a lot of good things for this regional banding, and it's not the most terrible thing in the world like a lot of people are trying to make it to be. We all have change in our life. We all have to change, but we adapt. And if we try to make this work, we can. And Harlem has always made things work, but we have to look at the financial situation with the health care, with all of the kind of things going on. We can't all of a sudden, in 3 years, with a good conscience, say we're going to have an $800,000 deficit. I don't want to have hardly any deficit in 3 years, but not 800,000. We have a way not to have that. And that's what we have to do, and buckle down and do the number 3 as far as I'm concerned, because that's what we have to do to keep the school moving in a positive forward so that kids can have a well-rounded education with all the real extracurricular activities and everything like that. Because if we end up in 3 or 4 years with more than $800,000 deficit, it's just going to keep mounting and mounting and mounting, and that's not what I was elected to do. Financial situations have to be this way. As far as I'm concerned, I was elected to represent all of the district, not with people just in the schools, but with our taxpayers. We can't afford to keep raising property taxes. And I know someone said, oh, with the seniors we have, they have that senior discount. Well, I have that senior discount, but guess what? In the last 5 years, my taxes still went up $500. It doesn't automatically freeze them unless you have a very low threshold. So people, we have to watch out for everybody in our district, and I don't see any other way when we get in 3 years, $800,000 deficit that some of these programs would offer, that is not being fiscally responsible for the school district and doing what's right for everyone in our school district, including the students. Because if we have problems and have discord, they're not going to want to have teachers come here and teach either. Thank you.
I agree.
Is that on? Yeah. I agree with Diana. I've gone through this district for years as a teacher, as a student, as a parent. I've seen many changes go from very beginning to very end, and still major changes are still occurring. I don't think change is a bad thing. I changed a lot in my educational field, okay? It's hard at first, but I think we all will adjust, and I think the kids will adjust. Kids are more flexible, obviously, than some of our parents, and they will meet friends no matter where they go. We cannot go on with this financial problem, okay? I was brought into thinking the big thing that we have to work on is the fiscal budget. Every year we have to look at that, and I think that's really important. We can't continue to grow. If I had my household working like this district, I'd be a little concerned. We have to stop going further in debt, and this is the way we can do it, by going into the geographical regions of the schools, north and south, and going along with number 3 as the model. I think at this point, we don't know what our future is going to consist of. We don't know what the grants are going to be from federal or state. We can't plan on anything. So what we need to do is cut where we can and go from this model, which I think is really good. I had a few uncertainties about the bus, and that was brought up. I'm glad that the second or third graders will be on a bus together, and the fourth and fifth and whatever. I think that's really important. I can't imagine being on the bus and you're going to all these different schools. So I think this is really good. Number 3 allows the social programs, okay, or the special programs at all our schools. You don't see that in every other model, okay? Everyone's going to get served in these special programs through this model. It's also really positive for the teachers, okay? When I was at this middle school, I got to work with a team, but at the beginning I didn't. I was pushed into other classrooms and going from class to class as a special education person. Then I had cross-categorical, where I brought the kids in and self-contained for a few hours. Then I went back into the classroom. It was very trying, but I understand that. But also, when I went to Loves Park Elementary, we had the opportunity to work with our grade levels, and I was pushed into 2nd and 4th and 5th and 6th grade as a special educator. Then I went into regular ed. And when you go into regular ed, you have that classroom, but you still have to have those people that push in and pull out all the time. And that really gets hard too. But this model allows all the special programs in the schools, okay? We all have that opportunity. Another thing that's positive, when I was a 5th grade teacher, I was able to sit with my 5th grade teammate, which was 1 or 2 teachers in my building. If we go this model, okay, all 4th grade teachers have the opportunity to be in that 4th grade school and the 5th grade together. You get to know who's coming up. You also get to know who you have, okay, which also benefits you. You can plan together. You can collaborate together. I think that's really well worth being. As a regular teacher, I didn't get a chance to go into all the other classrooms except for my next door neighbor classroom, okay? And so we plan together, yes, but this way you can get to see other ways of teaching styles and different ways of learning styles too with the kids. So I think this is really good. So I think that we need to go along with number 3. I'm not saying that everyone's going to, but there's a lot of positive things there. And instead of looking at all the negative, we need to look at some of the positive things too.
I guess we're going around and talking about our thought process. I completely disagree with both of those last statements. Number one, look at the district to the north that I grew up in. It doesn't work. That is one of the leading causes of having to teach kids at a lower level until they get up to the other level, with the banding. The district to the north, you talk to their teachers, you talk to any of their administrators, that's their biggest area of opportunity. And we know that, and I don't think it's fair to jump our district into their, a big area of opportunity that they've told us doesn't work. Also, I like neighborhood schools. I go back to the school pride. You know, we're Harlem, but guess what? You might be Parker, you might be something else. I mean, that stuff means something. There's a grade community, but there's also a building community out there. My goal with this, and if we bring back up the numbers, I don't know where the 800,000, I saw 3.3 million and 3.8 million over there, so I was only looking at a difference about 500,000 between those two. Having a little faith that with stuff that's going on in the state and all that kind of stuff, and some other cuts that I don't want to bring up here, but I'll talk to the admin team, but other cuts that I feel that we can make that were kind of off the table, but there's some other things that we're looking into about some things. The difference between these two numbers, Well, I mean, this one here is really, like I said, it's about the money, I think, not the children. I think the K through, and being a fiscal conservative, I understand that, but I still think that that's not the top dollar that we can accomplish. I think we can still make some changes with the 3.3 and do that, and I'm willing to take that chance right now. And I don't want to have to revisit this, but I'm willing to take that chance on trying to do as little change as possible and still cut our deficit. So that's kind of the reason why I'm choosing the way I'm choosing.
Anybody else? All right. So do we move this forward with 3? Or do we go back and try again to at least bring 2 to the Tuesday? I think 3 is hard with 3 choices, and especially with 7 people all having to pick one.
Where would we end up with those 3 again, just to refresh?
There was 1, 3, and 4. I did my math. I'm really trying to break it down to 2 choices.
Yeah, I'm with you. What I think my thought process is I'd like to get it down to 2, and this is against not plans in particular, but we've got two competing stakeholders after we choose our consensus. Is administration to kind of proceed and do a deeper dive into it, and also getting the feedback from our community. And that's where I'm jockeying against, right? 3 gives more opportunity for a community to talk. Maybe we meet somewhere in the middle. Maybe there's something that's there, but the administration's at a standstill. How much are you going to do with 3? All we did was knock out 1, right? And that 1 is very similar to another non-banded one, right? We didn't make administration, we didn't give them any keys to proceed. They're blocked. So we either have consensus of who we want to block. Do we want more community feedback on any of the things that are here, or do we get it down to 2? And it's either going to be that at that point, it would either be a banded or non-banded option, basically.
That's what I was going for today.
Yeah, but that's, you weren't going to get there, right? Right here is where we're at. You've got, we know how bands are, the benefits there. I'm not opposed, right? One of the reasons why I was leaning towards 4 is it kept a majority of the band benefits while reducing some of the pain for the parents of having multiple schools, multiple kids. And we've seen it work. We have examples in this district of it specifically working, and it had limited overall costs or changes to any construction or infrastructure. There was reasons that were there.
Yeah, I mean,
and again, I'm not even doing to jockeying to that. I'm really looking to the point of, we are behind the 8 ball. A decision needs to be made. This is a big decision. And even if we were gone to that point, this board was not going, you could have said vote 1 vote, and we would have, I think, still been at some sort of lock.
I'm just saying that also when we talk about construction, oh yeah, we're going to do a construction project to fix some of these things, and yes, we can, but it's going to be a lot of money to do these fixes and move this stuff. And any one of these things where we have to say, all right, we're going to have, say, the K through 5 at Parker. There's no green space. Literally, the bus lane has to get torn out and fenced in. I thought about that. I was like, there's no green space. So then, all right, we're redoing bathrooms. We're going to another. It's just.
I think that was knocked out too. Not to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, I get it. But what I'm saying is some of these things where it's not as easy. We put it on there and this is all we're going to have to do. Well, we got 6 months to do it and try to get it done across multiple schools. When's the last time we had that many projects go on and that didn't cost us $1 million?
Yeah, what would it cost to put in at Love Spark, like what would it, I'm looking at option 4, like what would it cost to put in younger playground equipment and green space? I mean, like, I'm looking this as spending money to save money.
Sure, most of the playgrounds, unless, so like the K playground piece, we could put in a piece of playground, but,
Okay.
I mean, that K is really the only one that would dictate some other kind of piece of playground. Everyone else is pretty much.
There's also the other elephant in the room, one of the reasons why we've been kicking this can was we're hoping that we would have these homes open back up. What happens if some homes open up? Where are we moving these kids? How are we moving these kids?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you didn't see the full numbers about open seats, but, you know, we range from 200 to 400 open seats in all these scenarios, and so, you know, you would be looking at enrollment increases that's just as it's currently designed into the allocations of classrooms that we have set aside based on the enrollment currently, and so you obviously have the room to add on other sections, but even with the current allocations as we presented them in the options, you're anywhere from I think it's 180 to 405 open seats or available seats. You know, so you're talking, you know, at the very minimum 30 to 35 at a grade level, and so that would require, you know, an influx of 35 first graders, 30, you know. So in all options, they have the ability to expand and to grow with things as well as add on additional sections if necessary.
Go ahead.
Can I say something again? I think what we're looking at here is, you know, the parents and some of the board members even, where we're looking at convenience because, it's, like we say, change is hard to make it convenience, and a little sentimentality. Now, the administration is looking at it from the fact that this is what we have to do to keep Harlem a steady and stable educating body, and what is best for overall, for the students' needs, for what we need for the district. That's what the administration is looking at, to keeping us stable. And that's what we have to remind ourselves. When we first had our meetings way back in one-on-one with you, Mike, and with Terrell and Josh, you sat in that meeting and told me number 7 was the way to go. That was what we needed to do.
Until I talk to the community.
Well, but what I'm
Until I
saying
talk
is,
to the community.
what I'm saying is, that's what we needed to do, community or not. We have to make the hard decisions here.
You don't think this is a hard?
No, I know it's a hard decision. It's harder for me because they're yelling at me. But I'm trying to make the right decision here, meaning I've got to do what's right for the Harlem School District. They can yell at me all they want to, but I want to do what's right and keep us financially stable too while providing a decent and quality education, and I think we can do that. Just because it doesn't work for South Beloit doesn't mean it's not going to work for us. I've talked to other school districts. One is in Manhattan, Illinois. It's in by Joliet. They have the banding, and it works fine for them. They're going very well with it. So you can't tell me that every place that's ever done the banding isn't going to work. But what I'm telling you is when I took this seat, I was given the responsibility to try to do what's best for the Harlem School District. And that's what I'm trying to do here with the banding. We can get this to work if we try, but we have to look at the numbers and realize and look to the future. That's what we have to do. The future is what we've got to try to keep in mind.
That's what we're both doing. We're viewing it from two different ways.
Well, coming from two different places, but I'm saying my place is when we started out, I just want to say like what Abraham Lincoln used to say, you make a stand, you plant your feet firm, and you hold steady. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Or you also get more information and then.
I've gotten more information, but what I'm saying is, I'm still looking at what I have to do. And that's what I feel that I have to do.
And I agree with you on that one. All right, so with that, are we taking 3 to Tuesday, or are we going to try to get to 2?
Yeah, I mean, if you really look at it, I think we're basically, unless you're looking at any of the middle ground ones, you've got option 1 and you've got option 3, right? I mean, the other one's got the votes, like that are kind of the middle ground, but some of them they're not bad enough vote. So realistically, what? Sorry, did I?
1 and 4 would be the options.
No,
No,
absolutely
one-
not. 1 and 3.
4.
If you look by discussions, and not saying what you agree with or what I
No,
agree with.
You said 1, 3, and 4?
Yeah, but if we're trying to get it down to 2, again, it goes back to the question, if we do that, and it sounds like that we're at an impasse between bans or not bans, right?
That's why I said it, the way I said it before, are you for bans or not for bans? Because that gets consensus either way. You're either gonna be for bans or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we gotta do it, right? Like, do we, it goes back to the point, if we move forward, you pick one choice. If you do one choice, that tells you your answer,
Then you have
bans
two
or not
scenarios
bans.
in that choice.
That's why that's what I was trying to do.
And it's fair. I wanted to get a consensus of where we stood, and that's the point of having a
You want to
consensus.
go around again and say bans or no bans?
That's a simple way. And
I will,
then-
I will,
Go ahead.
I'm going to say no bans neighborhood schools.
Thank you.
I guess I started.
I'm going to say bans. I like number 3.
Thank you.
Sure.
Rebecca?
I have to say either 1 or 3, because honestly, I want the savings, but I cannot honestly say, here, let's send these kids to all different schools all over the community, so.
That doesn't make, one of them does and one of them doesn't.
Yes, I understand that. The point is, I want to see the $4.2 million saved, but at the same time, I don't think that our students should be put on all different buses from all different households and sent to all different school buildings.
At this time, I'm just asking for a bans or a not bans.
Go back to it?
Yeah, come back. then.
I'll come back to you, that's fine. Diana?
Bans.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Evelyn? Bans. I'm for no bans.
No bans.
Rebecca, it falls to you.
I almost have to just flip a coin, because I really,
I don't think,
I know you can't, I mean, I'm just saying, obviously, I need to, laugh all you want, you sit up here and do the same job.
If you can-
I can't deal with either one of them. I don't like either one of them, so I'm gonna have to. I was elected to make the decision, but I'm also elected to listen to who is in the schools and who is in the neighborhood telling me. And I have enough people telling me from both sides that say, no, I don't want to spend any more tax dollars. But I also have enough people telling me from the inside saying, no, I
All right,
don't want my
so
kids all over the place.
You abstain?
Yeah,
Okay, so at this time, I don't have consensus for either. All right. Give me your number 1 scenario.
I'm number 1.
That's fine, thank you.
This doesn't work, because if you don't vote the other way,
I'm
it's
just-
still the same thing.
I'm just trying, I'm trying.
I think that's going to give us our best
Yeah,
option
I
to
mean,
expand.
it is not my favorite, but number 1.
I'm for number 1. Evelyn?
No, that wouldn't.
It's gonna be the same thing.
He said to come back.
I go, Diana?
Oh, I'll go with number 3.
All right, thank you. Rebecca?
She's abstaining,
didn't
right?
I abstain?
Abstain? That's fine, thank you.
3.
Okay, so with this,
This is why we have an odd number of board members.
correct, but with this, we're going to take
1 and 3.
1 and 3 to Tuesday.
We made progress.
We're down to 2. All right, with that,
So the other piece to this is, remember with this presentation,
I think it's just.
we still have the
Two
two
schools.
schools, right? And so we need consensus on that piece, because that moves us forward to what we need to do next.
correct.
I'm sorry.
As you saw, every one of these options that you guys even push forward has Maple and Olson being closed.
Correct.
We've already had 2 of the meetings. This would require us to put it back to Complaining about what? I don't know what you mean.
I believe she wants to know what districts have come up with the fact that they don't like the bands and why not.
Roscoe. They
Roscoe,
have
South
bands.
Beloit.
They've had bands for years.
Roscoe, South Beloit were against the bands, wasn't Rochelle?
Well,
was
South
pro
Beloit's not bands. I think South Beloit only has 3 schools, right?
Besides
Elementary,
South.
middle, and high school. Is that right?
Oh, in our district?
3? Yeah, so
Oh, in our district, so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Two different sides the schools are, which side is complaining the most.
Oh, what school, what grade school is complaining the most? What grade school is complaining the most?
In our district.
so I think
I don't-
Roscoe's 2-year bands.
I don't have an answer to that one.
But to my understanding, we still have to have one public hearing yet, just for
Correct.
the school closing.
Correct, this is why I'm asking consensus to go
Right,
back
but-
to the,
But my thing is with Robert's Rules of Order, with a public hearing, it's just about closing schools. It wouldn't be about banding issues or anything else. So our last,
well, that's all I'm asking for.
right, but we still have to have one, because Olson Park and Maple will still be closed in any scenario we go with.
That's why, and I just need consensus to go back to the next final meeting with the community. Because of each one of these, it's the same school. Before they had different schools.
Right, so we just have to have one public hearing for the two.
Correct, but I'm getting consensus because we have to put that notice back out again. 10 days. That's what I'm looking for.
So they'll both be, either one will be, Maple and Olson Park will be closed.
And you're good with that?
That's why I'm looking for consensus again.
Yes,
Yes.
We have consensus.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, Evelyn?
No, I need, right.
Okay.
Well, you can see what it's on.
Back to you.
So we're ready to adjourn the educational meeting?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Huh? Adjourn.
5
Meeting
minutes.
adjourned. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
We all here? Almost here. I'm going to call business services to order. We'll do a quick roll call here. Kurt Thompson here. Aaron McKnight.
I'm still here.
Josh Aran.
Here.
Terrell Yarbrough.
Here.
Shannon Thompson.
Here.
Michelle Erb.
Here.
And the union designee.
There you are.
Excellent.
Welcome.
All right, can I get consensus for the meeting minutes for December 10th, 2025?
Yes.
All in favor,
Yes.
say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Any public comments?
None at this time?
Perfect. And on with the agenda, Mr. Aran?
Mine's on.
My mic's on too.
My mic's on.
I can turn mine off.
Yeah, I don't.
All right. Hey. So my first item tonight is a recommendation to accept the November 2025 Treasurers Report, and I will hit the highlights like we normally do. So for the Ed Fund, when we take a look at the revenue's up 1.76 million, and expenditures are up 101,000. So when I look at the revenue year to date compared to the budget, it is 0.6% ahead where we were last year at this point. So that's good. So the budget is trending where it should be on the revenue side. Expense side, it's 0.02%. So it is right there with the caveat that the insurance at the end might change that. Through November, we were trending just slightly under on the property taxes, but I have positive news. We received a December payment, and that will put us slightly over what we had budgeted on the property taxes, so that's good news there. So for the tort fund, the revenue is 1.52, so we're 33,000 short, but we have 7 months to go, so that's trending on schedule, and the expenditures currently sit exactly at what we budgeted there. Operations and maintenance fund, the revenues are down 10,000 and expenses are up 112. The 112 mostly relates to the vehicles that we purchased. Currently, the supplies show it's down 62,000, but I just wanted to make a note that some of those electricity numbers coming in are a little bit higher too. So we should see that will probably flip to a positive expenditure as we go. And we'll talk about electricity a little bit later on in this agenda. So the bond and interest or debt service fund is trending to be slightly over budget on the revenue, and we made our payments for the year for the expenditure. So in December, you'll see that comes in on the budget for the expenses. Transportation revenues are up 1.2 million. As we've discussed, most of that is the electric buses, and that the state revenue will still be a little bit under what we budgeted there. Expenses are up 5.2%. Almost all of that is the additional buses because we bought the electric, which offsets the revenue side of it. So that's trending okay for now. IMRF revenue's down 1.9%, but should still be on budget. Expenses are up 3.6%. Capital projects, everything other than the transfer that will happen at the end, we're 2,000 over, so that revenue number will hit. Expenditure-wise, we have 74,000 still. Based on where we spent 730,000 out of 804. So that 74,000 will be projects at the beginning of the summer. So that looks good. So fire life safety, that revenue number is on budget, and for an expense, we have about 600,000 left. Some of that will be dust collection that we'll recommend later on in this agenda. So food service, because we're mostly federally funded, with that, it takes a few months for those reimbursements to come in. So November had a positive gain of 155,000. October was 59,000. So the overall deficit for the year is at 53,000, but it's trending positively, so we'll be good in that fund too. On the health insurance side, obviously we talked about that. I had provided a number earlier through January, so I updated it through today. This is the November number. November alone was a $417,000 increase that month. So November was a tough healthcare month for us as we go. So. Yeah, we are hearing just about a lot of really high dollar cases, like way more than normal is driving that too. But like when we looked at those summer numbers, there was only a few high dollar claims. A lot of that was just increased utilization. So it's a mixture of a few things, one of which is just inflation in that space altogether, but we do have quite a few high dollar claims.
And that's
Yeah, there's a couple things that we're looking at to try and help assist the people in our plan, but also reduce costs. And one of those is later on when we talk about the benefit consulting piece of that too. So there's something else that we're looking at that we're trying to bring forward in the future that would help keep costs neutral or down. Is there any other questions on the treasurer's report? Okay, everyone's next favorite topic is the bus bid. Don West is still here, so tonight the recommendation is to award the bus bid to Central States Bus Sales for 3 conventional style buses for a total cost of $449,370 and 3 transit style front engine buses at a cost of $514,740 for a total cost of $964,110. And how we ended up here, we talked last meeting about whether we wanted 6 or 7. A few years ago when the cycle was going to be the 5-year cycle, we were doing 15. Then we went to the 3-tier, it was going to go to 12. And right now, based on the funding from the state, we want to do the 6 plus those other cars that we were looking at. So, and we went 3 to 3 for a couple reasons, for what we store inside so that we have space on that. And I know that it is about a $20,000 difference. Don reached out to Central States and asked it at the 5-year mark, what is the trade-in difference? And they said about $15,000. So we're trending right now, if we buy 8 buses a year, that would be an 8-year cycle rather than a 5-year cycle. So if there were 10,000 more in 8 years, based on what the state pays us in reimbursement and the trade-in, it's about a wash. So I think it makes sense to buy 3 and 3, and then let's see where the funding comes in, balance that fund, and then we can make decisions going forward on future quantities.
These are all diesel, right? Or are they gas?
They're diesel, yes.
What's that? We try not to buy gas ones anymore.
And unfortunately, like we want as much competition as we can when we bid these, and we push international to bid, but internationals only make a conventional style. And it was a little surprising that they are $12,000 more per bus for the international over the Bluebird. So that's why the recommendation is 3 conventional, 3 transit style Bluebirds.
Just to confirm, everything that we're doing with removing a tier and reducing our bus needs, this is all based on the forecast of those changes, or is this still forecast? Okay.
Yeah, and that's why we went from 15 down to a good number would be 8. We're recommending 6 here just to kind of see what the state continuing to drop the funding on.
More knobs, I just want to make sure what.
Yeah. And what's hard is if you go too low, because Don was so efficient in selling buses that we brought in $810,000 in revenue. So what's going to happen is if we only sell 6 or 7, that's going to cut $400,000 off the upfront revenue right off the bat next year. So like there's no winning in all or none. So we're trying, like you said, we're trying to nudge that down a little bit, evaluate where the state's at and what that fund looks like. Just trying.
But Mr. Rand, we still are going to have 3 tiers. Elementary's just going to be on 2 tiers, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, was that your question?
I thought I heard you say 2 tiers.
We're operating off of the changes in tiers and reduction. We're having 2 schools, one way or the other, that are not going to have a bus need, right? So this is going to be overall reduction that needs the busing.
No, because the secondary still need the same number of buses. So
Buses, even with reducing of 2 schools?
correct. You're busing more kids because you have less walk boundary. So yeah, no, that did not. That would be good, but yeah. Sorry, that's not how I heard that question. So we good? Are there any other questions on the bus bid? Okay. Next item is a recommendation to award the high school dust collection bid to Miller Engineering in the amount of $370,917. We had discussed that could have been as much as high as $500,000. So to have multiple bids and to have one at 370, I was about $115,000 better than I had roughed it at 485 was my guess. So 370 is positive. And Miller, we've worked with them quite a bit. So Mr. Hubert and I, mostly Mr. Hubert, have spent a lot of time working with that program, each machine, figuring out where all of those, because the system is super custom to each piece of equipment that we have in that space. So this hopefully will meet our needs, and it's a life safety fund that's all approved, and so recommend awarding that bid tonight. Any questions?
What's we have to put it in one together, but just out of curiosity to kind of handle the cost over time, what is the average life of a piece of equipment like this? 5, 10, 15, 500?
Oh, yeah, it won't be 5. Jake, do you have any idea on that?
I just saw one, I was gonna say, I just saw one online that was,
15 to
I
20.
was gonna say, I
is
just
fair.
saw one for sale online. That was the one I showed you, and they were still asking almost 120,000. It was 35 years old.
Okay.
So I showed Jocelyn, like, can we make this work? No.
Yep.
They're just looking at either
Yeah,
custom
yes,
for one.
there.
It's a substantial amount of cost, but if you're taking that over
As long as
30 years,
As
that
long as they're maintained, they can, those electric motors that they put in are.
And, we had discussed that at the time of the addition, and it's probably a blessing that we did not do it at that time because we had no program, we had no equipment, we didn't know what the need was, so we would have been stuck with a system that wouldn't have met our needs or worked very well, so.
So what happens to the one that's been the temporary sitting in the classroom now?
So there's a portable one that can still hook up to this system, but this system is way more advanced and will
Oh,
work
yeah, no, I'm
significantly
just
better.
wondering, is this something that we just put in the closet now and save for some other time, or?
Not all of the pieces of equipment, try to also give flexibility, will be along the wall to plug into the dust collection system. So there is some flexibility where they'll be able to move some of those machines around and still hook it up to some of those temporary systems that they have. So it's just on a much smaller scale, and we'll be able to move that around as we need machines in different places.
Thanks, Jake.
Any other questions on that? All right. Next is a recommendation to approve an agreement with Aya Healthcare, Inc. to provide nursing services at Loves Park Elementary at a cost of $80 per hour for 37 and a half hours per week for 20 hours a week for a total cost of $60,000 paid with the IDEA Flow Through Part B fund. There is a memo from Director Heidi Lang just explaining that need for some specific nursing skills for some of our life skill students that are in need at Loves Park for the rest of this year. Any questions? Next is a recommendation to approve contracted school improvement grant tutor for Rock Cut Elementary at a cost of $10,500 paid with Planning Year Title I, Part A, Section 1003. Director Hubert has a memo on there. I don't know if you want to talk about it or Mickey wants to say anything about.
This one, sorry. So this is through the school improvement grant. Yeah, it's just one of the needs that were identified by Rock Cut for bringing students in and using the MTSS system, identifying students with connected to Department of Health. In doing it this way, this is the same way that a lot of other schools contract it out instead of having somebody, employees contract it out. It ends up, you know exactly what you're getting for how long with that. And it helps out like as far as retirement and like for people who retire, not having to worry about like hiring and how many hours you're working.
Are there any questions on that? Okay. So next is a recommendation to approve Tyler Technology / Munis reporting services migration for a cost of $3,600. So currently Tyler, it's always been Munis to me, so I can't stop calling it Munis, but Tyler Munis is our HR, some of our HR software and business software. And currently we utilize a module called Crystal Reports, which is a report writer within the system. We have 15 or 20 Crystal reports. Like when you look at the bills, that's a Crystal report. They're getting rid of Crystal reports and they're moving to a Microsoft SQL server. So those reports that we run are going to phase out at the end of this year. So we had them put together a quote, and it's typically $7,500 to buy this license. They're waiving that. We pay about $3,800 a year. It'll go to $4,000, so it's about $200 a year more. This $3,600 is for the one-time remote implementation, so that we are also training a couple people to write SQL reports in Tyler Munis, so that we can write the reports from our system using our data as we need it. So
does
it's
it
a
include the
one-time.
migration of all the old ones as well, or is it just?
No, so that's a separate. So
Yeah. I was gonna say, this seems dirt cheap otherwise for a data migration.
we're having those people, so what we're going to do is get the list of the reports, see which ones are the easiest, start at the top, go down. We may have to convert a couple of them, but my hope is that we can rewrite them in the SQL server.
So this is just basically the license for going over to the new?
This is just the 3,600 is just the implementation to get it running, and then it'll be a one-time cost and go away. So we pay 3,800 now anyways, it'll be 4,000, so it's $200 a year increase. But my hope is, I'm guessing with using Microsoft SQL Server, that this will just be what they use going forward.
Sure, I mean, at least you're getting more of a modern standard, but yeah, find out with the data migration will be
Some of that report writing can be tricky when you're pulling different fields from different modules. Like, so we used to have someone that wrote Crystal reports, and that person retired, so we don't really have anyone that writes Crystal, and it's going away. So this is a perfect opportunity to have someone from HR and from business both learn the report writing so that we can make custom reports as we need to.
Yeah, no, it's just, I gotta get out of some of these ancient formats.
Any questions or concerns about that? Okay, so 8D7 is benefit consulting discussion. Currently, we use Gallagher for our benefits consulting. We have not bid that or done an RFQ for a very long time. So when we talk about healthcare, I think it's a good time to put that out, see what's out there in the RFQ world, especially because healthcare is such a key topic for us, just to make sure that we're getting the right services and at the right fee. So I would like to just go out for that process and bring a recommendation to the board later this spring. It's typically a July 1st start date, but it's an important issue for us.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
So are there any other questions on that? Everyone's good with us going out and bringing a recommendation? Okay. So my final item is an energy consultant discussion. We talked about, at the last meeting, the board gave me the authority to lock electricity. The rep that I had been working with, he really wasn't responding anymore. So there was a different company, Nania Energy. They are an independent energy group, so they will help us go out to bid, evaluate the best option, and give they don't care which vendor you use. And so they sent me some references, and one of them was Huntley, and I know Mark really well there, and he had really good things to say. So what's complicated about, I explained the electricity bills and what we're seeing on that, but like when we go out to bid, because we're going to soon be bringing in big amounts of community solar, we have behind the meter solar, and then we have all the needs that we have within the building. So someone that can evaluate that and help us put that in a document, because the electricity purchasing space is fairly complex, and our situation is fairly complex. Having someone to help us put that together, make sure we're paying the lowest that we can pay, I think is important. So they seem like a really good group, and they had a great reference check yesterday.
So we're essentially reading the person that was not responding, they're done, out.
Yes.
Listed them
I
essentially.
tried multiple times and he didn't respond. So actually, I came into these guys because they help in two different fronts. Solar installation, which we're kind of solared out, and then the energy procurement. So they had reached out to me doing a forefront reference check for a different district, and I just kind of made a note that they had reached out. I had a good conversation, and then when the other person didn't respond, I reached back out and said, let's talk about procurement and making sure. So like, they can also do natural gas. Our focused conversation has been electricity, but when are good times in the year? What are they seeing trend-wise? And then, because like you can do reverse auctions where energy providers will say, I'll do it for 10 cents, and then some, you know what I mean? And then they keep going down to get the lowest cost possible, like having them bid against each other. So
Not a lot of low cost, but sure, I love it. Let's
lower than, yeah. And what we're seeing just with the massive charges and credits, and like it's best just to, we got to move somewhere else at this point and save money on the electricity side. We're doing too much work on community solar behind the meter. These lighting projects we're doing, the BAS system we've put in to pay more than.
These are generally like a flat rate? They're not taking a percentage of what our usage is to promote it? Or how does their structure work for?
That's a great question. So currently behind the scenes, we're on a ComEd hourly rate with Constellation, and Constellation currently is charging 0.008 for like a charge for that. These guys will make 0.002, and Constellation I think will get 0.002. So he said that rate would come down to about half of what we're currently paying, and we don't pay them. That just gets that's a fraction of a cent gets washed out in the bill. So they'll be like the broker and get.
Reminds me of Office Space, so just rounding the pennies.
No, well, hopefully not. Hopefully not.
What's the worst that can happen?
But, so positive conversations, and I think they would be great.
That helps, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
Not on that.
That is my report.
You were going to mention something about keeping healthcare costs down with, you had mentioned, that wasn't going out for the additional ones. Wasn't there additional services?
So that will be one of the pieces. Yeah, we have a second recommendation that we're working on bringing later, but like the consultant and the recommendations of that consultant and just making sure we have all the best ideas and looking at that.
Meeting with Marathon?
You mean like the annual summary?
Yeah.
So I reached out about when that annual summary, and they said it would be late March, early April, we would have that data for the annual. And so every year that will be at that time too, because they got to pull a bunch of data to provide the report, so.
Yeah. And everyone's new stuff is kicking in at the first year.
Correct.
Well, because they got to pull data from Blue Cross and then incorporate it, and there's a lot to that.
While we're doing all this, are we going to be looking into legal and other?
Yep, yeah. So that's typically a July 1st date. We talked about March-ish would be the, well, so the next 6-8 weeks.
Okay, so we'll be putting that back out to bid and all that.
Yeah.
Any other ones that we're going to be looking at?
Yes, I just ran through that list. I'm trying to think. So we have benefits, we have energy, we have legal. I'll have to get back to the list. I don't have it on the top of my list. But I ran that through.
You have a
with-
plan.
I ran that through with Gail on accounts payable the other day, the list of the items that we have to go out for, so.
All right.
Oh, audit. The audit is up. That's been the 3rd year, so I've asked the auditors for an extension because typically 3 years is so quick. We typically stay with them 6 years, so I've asked them to give me an updated pricing to extend that contract. I can't believe it's over already. That was the quickest 3 years
Feels
of
like
audit.
yesterday.
Yeah. Well, when you asked, I was like, is it 2 or 3? Because the time just flies on that. It's 3, it's over, so that's another one too. But I don't anticipate a full need to go out to bid for that.
All right, it would be good to see all those go back out and
Yeah,
see who we get.
absolutely. All right, thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. Aye. Thanks, everybody.